Still missing a few people.
Yeah, we're still waiting for a few people.
Well, I see there are 5 of us on. That constitutes a quorum, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yep, it does.
Okay, with that, then I'll call this regular meeting of the LAFCO for July 15th to order. This meeting will proceed as a teleconference in compliance with waivers to certain Brown Act provisions under the governor's executive orders in response to the COVID-19 state of emergency. The agenda provides members of the public the ability to provide comment when participating via Zoom, video conference, or Zoom via phone by either clicking the raise hand button from the Zoom browser or Zoom app. Or for those on Zoom via phone, they can also raise their hands by pressing *9. Comments and testimony are limited to 3 minutes. Additionally, the agenda also informs members of the public that they may submit written comments by mail, email, or online through the Commission's website public comment link no later than 7:30 a.m. on the meeting day. These comments and testimony will be read onto the meeting record at the appropriate time. And with that, Ms. Jones, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Bagley,
I'm here.
Commissioner Cox,
Present.
Commissioner Curtalo, Commissioner Livingood,
Here.
Commissioner McCallum,
Here.
Commissioner Rutherford,
Here.
Commissioner Warren, Commissioner Dennison,
Dennison here.
Commissioner Farrell,
Here.
Commissioner DeMeyer.
Present.
We have a quorum, very good.
Yes.
If everyone would mute their microphone and join me in saluting the flag that represents our republic. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Anyone present at the hearing who is involved with any of the changes of organization to be considered and who has made a contribution of more than $250 in the past 12 months to any member of the commission will be asked to state for the record the commission member to whom the contribution has been made and the matter of consideration with which they are involved. Is there anyone who wants to make that declaration? Seeing no hands raised, before we move to the first item, I have one more statement. The following will be the manner in which the commission will consider items during this meeting. I will first call on staff to make a presentation for the next item on the agenda. Following the presentation, I will call on commissioners who may have a comment or question for staff. I'm going to ask the clerk whether any members of the public have submitted written comments for the item as well as anyone on the video conference or on the phone who wishes to make a comment. I will then come back to the commission to see if there are any other further discussion. If the item is an action item, I will then ask for a motion and request that the commissioner make the motion or second identify themselves. I will then ask the clerk to do the roll call vote. First item is to swear in returning members for regular special district and the city commission. Staff?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The Special Districts Selection Committee recently concluded their election for regular district commissioner through a mailed ballot process. The two candidates who were nominated, Commissioner Cox and T. Milford Harrison from San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District. For the election, there were 35 districts that participated in the process, and a total of 33 valid votes were received, exceeding the 26 ballots required for a quorum. So Commissioner Cox garnered 27 votes and Mr. Harrison received 6 votes. Therefore, Commissioner Cox will be the regular district commissioner and her new term ends May 2024. I will now ask Ms. Jones to administer the oath of office to Commissioner Cox.
Sorry about that. Good
There
morning,
you go.
Commissioner Cox. Please raise your right hand. There you are. I, and state your name,
I, Kimberly Cox,
solemnly swear
that
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am now about to enter.
the duties upon which I am now about to enter.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Dr. Cox. Welcome back.
Thank you.
All right, so similarly, the City Selection Committee met last month to select its regular city commissioner. Commissioner Warren ran unopposed and was selected by unanimous vote by the City Selection Committee. Therefore, Commissioner Aquaneta Warren will be the regular city commissioner, and her new term ends May 2024 also. I will now ask Ms. Jones to administer the oath of office to Commissioner Warren.
Is Commissioner Warren now with us? She wasn't available during roll call.
Oh.
She's here. She's with us.
Good morning, Ms. Warren.
Unmute. Aki, unmute.
Ms.
Can't
Warren?
hear you. Can't hear you. Still can't hear you, Aki.
Oh, boy, let me see what
There you
happened.
go.
There you go. There you go.
Now we got you.
Okay, you can hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Good morning.
good morning.
Please raise your right hand for your oath.
All right,
I, and state your name,
I, Aquaneta Warren,
solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am now about to enter.
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mayor Warren. Welcome back. Good to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for your support also.
Well, you deserve it. Thank you. We'll now move on to our consent items. The following items are expected to be routine and non-controversial and will be called upon, will be acted upon by the commission at one time without discussion. Have we had any requests to pull any of the items, Ms. Jones?
No, no request to pull any of the items.
Are there any public comments submitted on any of the items?
No, not on the consent items.
Commission, your pleasure, please. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move the consent calendar.
Moved by Cox, second by Commissioner Rutherford. Ms. Jones, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Bagley,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Aye.
Commissioner Levingood,
Yes.
Commissioner McAllen,
Yes.
Commissioner Rutherford,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren,
Unmute. There you go.
Commissioner Warren, Commissioner Farrell.
Yes.
One more call for Commissioner Warren.
She's got her thumb up.
Okay.
Very good. We'll now move on to our public hearing items. Item 10 is consideration of a negative declaration prepared by the city of Loma Linda as CEQA responsible agent for LAFCO 3239 and consideration of LAFCO 3239 City of Loma Linda reorganization. Staff?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is item 9. LAFCO 3239
I'm
is
sorry,
a
item-
reorganization.
Yeah, I meant item 9. Excuse me. Go ahead.
LAFCO 3239 is a reorganization proposal to annex into the city of Loma Linda. The city-owned parcels, a total of 11 parcels, encompassing approximately 664 acres, primarily to bring into the city the remaining parcels associated with the city's South Hills Preserve and to remove the parcels from the tax roll. These lands are part of the city's unmaintained trails within the South Hills Preserve, which is used primarily for passive recreation. Staff report outlines the required rezoning, which is consistent with the city's existing general plan. And the plan for service has identified and the environmental review for the annexation and pre-zoning for the city's process, as well as the commission's actions as responsible agency under CEQA are identified. And last but not least, the waiver of protest proceedings with 100% landowner consent. The city is the landowner for all parcels. Therefore, if the commission approves LAFCO 3239, staff is recommending that the protest proceedings be waived. The proposal was submitted by the city in order to bring the remainder of the South Hills Preserve under its jurisdiction, as well as to relieve itself of the recurring property tax obligation of approximately $18,500 annually, a significant savings that would benefit the taxpayers of the city. Therefore, staff is recommending, next slide, Jeff, approve LAFCO 3239 by taking the recommended actions on page 1 and 2 of the staff report. which are on the screen. For environmental review, certify the commission has independently reviewed and considered the city's initial study and negative declaration prepared for the annexation and pre-zoning for the subject area, that the city's environmental assessment is adequate for the commission's use as CEQA responsible agency, determine that the commission does not intend to adopt alternatives or mitigation measures for the project, and there were no mitigation measures identified, and direct the executive officer to file the notice of determination. Next slide. Approve LAFCO 3239 with the standard LAFCO terms and conditions, including the hold harmless clause, waive protest proceedings with 100% landowner consent, and adopt LAFCO resolution 3310, setting forth the commission's determinations and conditions of approval for the reorganization proposal. That ends my staff report. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Commissioners, do you have any question of staff? Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing and ask Ms. Jones, have we received any public comment on this item?
No, Mr. Chair, no public comment on this item.
Okay, is there anyone in the public who wants to comment on this item? Please raise your hand, or if you're on the phone, press *9. I see none, therefore I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for action.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the item.
Moved by Lovingood,
Mr. Chair, I'll second the item.
second by Bagley. Ms. Jones, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Bagley,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Aye.
Commissioner Lovingood,
Yes.
Commissioner McAllen,
Yes.
Commissioner Rutherford,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren,
Yes.
Commissioner Farrell.
Yes.
Thank
That
you.
item passes unanimously. We'll now move on to item 10, which is consideration of the final EIR adopted by the city of Rancho Cucamonga for the Itawanda Heights Neighborhood and Conservation Plan as a CEQA responsible agency for LAFCO 3241. Adoption of facts, findings, and statement of overriding considerations and consideration of LAFCO 3241 City of Rancho Cucamonga reorganization for the Itawanda Heights Neighborhood and Conservation Plan. I will open the public hearing and ask staff to make a presentation.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
before staff presentation, I have a statement that I'd like to read.
go right ahead, Commissioner Rutherford.
The territory subject to the proposed reorganization is located within my supervisorial district. And while in this case, I want to state on the record, I have no financial interest in agenda item number 10, which would require my recusal from reviewing or participating in the making of any decisions related to agenda item 10. Further, there are no restrictions on my reviewing or acting on the proposed reorganization under the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Local Government Reorganization Act of 2000.
Thank you, Commissioner Rutherford. Staff?
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Chair. Our next item is the proposed reorganization that includes annexation to the city of Rancho Cucamonga and detachment from County Service Area 70. Next slide, Jeff. LAFCO 3241 was initiated by the city of Rancho Cucamonga, which includes the annexation of approximately 4,085 acres into the city. And the proposed reorganization area generally includes the northern unincorporated sphere of influence for the city that is easterly of Haven Avenue. Next slide, Jeff. As outlined in the report, the city proposed annexation of the area is the entire Itawanda Heights Neighborhood and Conservation Plan, a specific plan that the city prepared and recently adopted in order for the city to regulate the development within the specific plan area. The entire specific plan area encompasses a total of approximately 4,300 93 acres, most of which is unincorporated county area, with a very small section already within the city. Staff outlined the city specific plan process on pages 4 through 6 of the staff report. The specific plan is divided into two distinct areas: the southerly neighborhood area and the northerly rural conservation area. Jeff, please click. Within the 790 acres neighborhood area, the plan proposes 2,700 up to 3,000 residential homes, 85 acres of parks, and 180,000 square feet of shops, retail, and a community center that specifies a vision for a series of walkable neighborhoods. Click, please. The remaining 3,603 acres are proposed as rural conservation and would provide for a mix of habitat mitigation lands and open space, existing open space preserve, and very low density rural residential. Next slide, please. At this point, I would like to discuss the Commission's policy related to the concurrent city district annexation policy and the rationale for LAFCO's staff's recommendation to override said policy. The policy requires concurrent annexation to all the local agencies serving the community. And in the case for the city of Rancho Cucamonga, the community-based districts are Rancho Cucamonga Fire Protection District, Cucamonga Valley Water District, Inland Empire Utilities Agency, and which is a member of the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. Next slide, Jeff, please. The Rancho Cucamonga Fire Protection District, which is a subsidiary district of the city, already overlays the entirety of the area that's being annexed. Therefore, the area will continue to receive fire protection and emergency medical response services from the fire district. Next slide, Jeff. For the three water and wastewater service providers, their boundaries are generally the same, except for a portion of IUA and MET extending northerly along the southeastern edge of the reorganization area. As shown, the neighborhood area, which is the area proposed to be developed, is already within the boundaries of those three agencies. On the other hand, the rural conservation area, which is being set aside for conservation and open space, will not require water or wastewater services from said agencies. Therefore, there will be no need to annex the rural conservation area into these agencies. LAFCO staff is recommending that the Commission override its policy related to concurrent city district annexation for LAFCO 3241 on the basis that there is no need for services to be provided by the Cucamonga Valley Water District, IUA, and MET within the portion of the reorganization area that is outside of their current boundaries. Next slide. That is the recommendation. Next slide, please. We've covered the issues related to boundaries. It is LAFCO staff's position that the reorganization proposal provides for a logical boundary since it places the entirety of the Edewanda Heights neighborhood and conservation plan within the city, which is an easily identifiable boundary for service, particularly for the neighborhood area of the specific plan. In addition, annexing the area into the city allows the city to preserve the open space lands within the rural conservation area of the specific plan. Next slide, Jeff. The next few slides relate to the existing land uses, existing land use descriptions or designations for the city's general plan, and the pre-zoning for the reorganization area. This slide is an aerial view of the reorganization area. Next slide, Jeff. This is the city's general plan land use map, which as we overlay the reorganization area, which has designated the neighborhood area as the EHNCP neighborhood planning area, and designates the rural conservation area with the underlying open space land use designations that their general plan already has for hillside residential, conservation, open space, and flood control utility. Next slide. The city's zoning designates the entire reorganization area as Edewanda Heights Neighborhood and Conservation Plan, with the underlying zone and subzones designated for the specific plan, as shown on the screen. These zoning designations shall remain in effect for a period of 2 years following annexation, unless specific findings are made by the City Council at a public hearing. Next slide, Jeff. Some of the services are outlined in the staff report and more specifically described in the plan for service that indicates such service extensions will exceed current service levels provided through the county. These are some of the examples for fire protection as identified, which is provided by the Rancho Cucamonga Fire Protection District, a subsidiary district of the city. Already serves the entire reorganization area. For law enforcement, the County Sheriff's Department currently serves the area, which will transition into the city's contract with the Sheriff's Department upon completion of the reorganization proposal. The county currently provides regional park services, and the city provides a variety of park and recreational facilities within the city. Water service to the neighborhood area is to be provided by the Cucamonga Valley Water District, which already overlays the neighborhood area. The water supply assessment concluded that the district has sufficient water availability. Wastewater service collection, also provided by the Cucamonga Valley Water District, will be to the neighborhood area, and wastewater treatment service is provided by the Inland Empire Utilities Agency, which already, again, includes the neighborhood area within its boundaries. Next slide, Jeff. The commission will be acting as a responsible agency on the city's environmental impact report that was prepared and certified for the Edewanda Heights Neighborhood and Conservation Plan. The commission's environmental consultant, Tom Dodson and Associates, reviewed the city's environmental assessment for the Edewanda Heights Neighborhood and Conservation Plan, and has indicated that the city's environmental documents are adequate for the commission's use as CEQA responsible agency for LAFCO 3241. Next slide. The recommended environmental actions are outlined on the screen. Number one, certify that the commission staff and environmental consultant have individually reviewed and considered the environmental assessment by the city for the Edewanda Heights Neighborhood and Conservation Plan. Determine that the complete final EAR is adequate for the commission's use in making its decision related to LAFCO 3241. Determine that the commission does not intend to adopt alternatives or additional mitigation measures, and that the mitigation measures required for the project are the responsibility of the city and others, not the commission. adopt the facts, findings, and statement of overriding considerations as presented by Mr. Dodson, which are the conclusions made regarding the significance of the project in light of the impacts and mitigation measures that have been identified. And finally, direct the executive officer to file the notice of determination. Before I conclude my presentation, I'd like to note that the sphere of influence for the city has been its sphere since the late 70s. In 1978, a year after the city incorporated, it established a coterminous sphere. And then a year later, 1979, through approval of LAFCO 1811A, the sphere of influence for the city was expanded to the current sphere of influence designated for the city. In other words, the area has been within the city's planning boundary, and by definition, the sphere of influence is the probable physical boundary of an agency. Next slide, please. Again, the city initiated the reorganization in order to bring within its boundaries the entirety of the Eriwanda Heights neighborhood and conservation plan, which the city prepared and adopted in order to regulate the development within the specific plan area. The city has long had a vision for the conservation of the alluvial fan and the foothills, and it realized it had the opportunity to have local control to ensure city standards are met by annexing the entire specific plan area with the intent of balancing the community's priorities for conservation in the northern rural conservation area and having the appropriate development in the southern neighborhood area of the specific plan. And for these reasons, LAFCO staff is recommending approval of LAFCO 3241 as outlined on pages 1 and 2 of the staff report. Next slide. For environmental review, the recommendations that I just outlined earlier, which is also on the screen. Next slide, Jeff. Override the commission's policy related to concurrent city district annexation based on the fact outlined in the report. Approve LAFCO 3241 with the standard terms and conditions, including the hold harmless cost. And finally, adopt LAFCO resolution number 3312, setting forth the commission's terms, conditions, and determinations for LAFCO 3241. That ends my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time. I would like to note, by the way, that following the publication of the staff report, a number of comment letters and written comments were received. All of the comments, comment letters and written comments were forwarded to the commission. Said comment letters and written comments have been posted on the commission's agenda page for today's hearing. Last night, we received 2 additional written comments, and they will be read into the record by our clerk, as well as it will be posted on the website following the hearing. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That ends my staff report.
Thank you, Sam. Before we have public comment, do the commissioners have any questions of staff? Farrell, Commissioner Farrell.
Thank you, Chairman. I want to just comment if staff can contact Commissioner Curatolo. I know he is trying to get on. I had no way of contacting him with the appropriate link, but I know he's on the public Zoom and trying to get in by phone, and I'm sure he has been listening and wants to participate. Second, I just on this slide, as I'm reading it, it says that there is no need for the additional, I'm sorry, let's see, the city district annexation. I was wondering about the potential for 100 homes in the rural conservation area, because I know that that was one of the considerations here. Will those homes and potential new homes, even if they are on large acreage lots, not need these services?
They will be required to either be on wells and or septic system.
Thank you.
Other commissioner comments or questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Dr. Khan.
Thank you. Sam, in reviewing these letters, it seems, I'm picking up comments like inverse condemnation, a taking of property. I didn't have the time to locate where all these APNs are from the letters of opposition. Are these mainly in the conservation area and they feel that their property will be undevelopable because it will have a conservation easement on it? Or can you just enlighten me a little bit on that?
So yes, the areas, most of those areas or parcels are within the rural conservation area. There are several designations in those areas. There's the hillside residential, there's the open space, and there's also the rural conservation area. So most of the area up there will be under that designation of that I just open, they're called the open space designations for the city.
Is there the ability to build a home in this area?
Well, a couple of things, yes and no. Yes, it also depends on obviously the terrain on the ground, whether or not it's in the flood zone, whether the slopes depends. So typically, you would go through the planning process, either if it was through the county, and this time if it's annexed through the city, and they would evaluate the ability to actually build those homes.
So those conditions would apply regardless of whether they're unincorporated county or within the incorporated city jurisdictions, correct?
Pretty much, and there's there's a reason why there's not much development up there. It's difficult to develop up there.
Great, thank you. That concludes my questions.
Okay, any other comments or questions from commissioners? I see no hands raised. No one's got any more. Then Ms. Jones, would you read into the record the comments we received?
Certainly. This first public comment statement is from Martin A. Cervantes, the law offices of Martin A. Cervantes. LAFCO 3241 should not be approved because it invites and will result in an inverse condemnation proceeding because the proposed zoning for the privately owned properties that will constitute the rural conservation area, hereinafter Hillside Owners LLC, renders the properties believed to be identified at page 5 of the staff report, paragraph 4, as rural conservation substantially without value. The reason for the above assertion is due to the transfer of densities from the Hillside Owners LLC to the currently owned county property, identified as neighborhood area, but currently a rock pit on page 5, paragraph 4 of the staff report, and proposed to be annexed into the city where about 800 acres will be fully developed with private property densities. Currently, the LLC owners have densities allowing for full development. Under LAFCO 3241, densities would be taken and private properties would be rural conservation, rendering those private properties unreasonably valueless. Over the past 10 years or more, the Hillside Owners LLC have appeared and opposed at least 3 different proposals, all on the same basis that the zoning densities would be taken from them and it would render their property values substantially diminished. Once again, this LAFCO 3241 proposal attempts to do the same thing. The staff report supporting item 11 is misleading because it omits discussion at page 5 of density transfers and fails to mention the long-running battle the private property owners have had to protect densities. The next public comment is from Andrew Hu. I am the owner of the BPEA LLC, co-owner of 3 parcels of land located at the County of San Bernardino, APN 0226065157, and within the City of Rancho Cucamonga's proposed Northeastern Sphere Annexation Project, NESPA. The 3 parcels of note are 0201-03339, 0201-03340, and 0201-02105. While I am unable to attend any public meetings or discussions on the proposed annexation, I want to join the other owners within the proposed conservation priority area in voicing our strong opposition to the annexation and conversion of our properties to open space and deem the proposed plan an attempted taking without compensation. I hope this issue can be addressed amicably. However, I am prepared to take any legal means necessary, including but not limited to filing a lawsuit against the city to restrain and enjoin the city from pursuing this project and a suit for monetary damages. I ask that this letter of opposition be included in the public record. Thank you, and that's Andrew Hu. The next letter is from the law offices of Randall S. Goritsky. Dear Sir and Madam, Crane Veyer Corp. has been advised that LAFCO amended the final report to the Annexation Commission July 10, 2020, with the date of 7/8. The new document reverses all previous development promises made to us regarding our properties. LAFCO's apparent new goal is a total of 100 homes on our private properties, preferably clustered of our 3,300 acres, a density of 1 per 33 acres, while retaining their 4,000 plus unit development on the county property of 1,200 acres below. The majority of your property and Crane Veyers is now zoned flood control, a loss of 90% of our densities. Crane Veyer objects and casts a no vote to the proposed action for the July 15th, 2020 meeting. Crane Veyers owns 2 properties totaling 30 plus acres, parcels referenced above. Crane Veyer considers this a wrongful taking and inverse condemnation case as 90% of our lots have been eliminated. Crane Veyer stands to lose its entire investment money, millions of dollars, plus taxes you have paid over the last 10 years. Crane Veyer considers the city-county project to be a collusive attempt to gather a large windfall in violation of the Brown Act, as a project was fully outlined in its inception in 2017 without prior advertised meetings by the county. Lastly, the county has restricted Crane Veyer's access to the property for 3+ years. Crane Veyer will take all legal action to enforce its rights and remedies as to this proposed wrongful taking of its property. Sincerely, Randall S. Goritsky, Esquire. The next letter is from Rebecca Burchett. My name is Rebecca Burchett. I am one of the private landowners whose property the city is salivating to annex, APN 1087-06107. My partners and I are all opposed to LAFCO 3241 for many reasons, some of which are, it would prejudicially inflict economic loss and hardship on private property owners by robbing us of our ascribed densities and development potentials and giving them to the city's maximum density, multi-million-dollar 790-acre development without any financial compensation. Condemning our properties to extremely limited building rights and prejudicially denying even basic services to our properties, including water and utilities, by overriding the commission's own policy requiring concurrent annexation of all community-based agencies. No roads planned, not even for access roads to our properties or any plans at all, resulting in a huge financial gain to the city and county and a huge loss to we property owners. This is discriminatory. The land value determines assigned by county assessor's office for protest purposes are deliberately weighted in favor of the city and county. This disparate value stated of just 24,763,577 for privately owned land as opposed to assigned values of 35,013,797 to tax exempt lands is lacking transparency and documentation. As an example, County Service Area 120, AKA the North Etiwanda Preserve, established by Sandbag in 1998 and primarily financed by endowments, is alone valued in excess of 23 million. For protest purposes, where are the land purchase documents to support this high value for endowed lands? Sincerely, Rebecca Burchett. And just so the commission knows, we're only reading 250 words. It goes on and on as multiple pages. The next and last letter I have to read is from Anthony Chang, principal of Anthem Development LLC, managing member of Rancho Canyon Partners LLC. We are the landowner of the above mentioned 12.18 acre parcel of raw land that wraps around the water tank at the top of Day Creek Boulevard. Our property is within the boundary of LAFCO annexation proposal 3241, and we are opposed to this LAFCO proposal. We have been advised that LAFCO amended the final report to the Annexation Commission, resulting in a reversal of previous zoning and development promises made to landowners in the project area. LAFCO's apparent new goal for a total of only 100 homes on our collective private properties, comprised of 3,300 acres, yields a density of a mere 1 per 33 acres. Meanwhile, the proposal allows an over 4,000 unit development on county-owned property of 1,200 acres immediately below us. This is clearly a case of inverse condemnation that virtually eliminates all development value in our property while allowing the city and county project to make a windfall of profits at our demise. We invested to purchase the land in 2006 and have paid significant property taxes over the last 14 years. We are currently being assessed a land value of over 1.2 million, which will become close to zero given the proposed density restriction in the annexation proposal. We have not received any of the required notices as stipulated under the Brown Act. And in fact, we have not even been allowed or been able to access our land, our own property, given the county has locked public access for over 3 years. We have no choice but to take legal action against this proposed wrongful devaluation and taking of our property. Sincerely, Anthony Chang. That concludes the comments I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Now we'll give the public who are on in the meeting to give comments. If you would please either click the raise hand button, or for
Mr.
those
Chair.
on the Zoom via phone, please raise your hand by pressing *9.
Mr. Chair, if you could go ahead and call in the applicant first, the city.
The city wants to make a comment. Where's the applicant?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yes, hello. Good morning, members of the commission. My name is Mike Smith, principal planner with the city of Rancho Cucamonga. And I know that we have a limited amount of time to make any kind of presentation, so I will make my statements relatively brief. Just wanted to point out that I have reviewed the staff report for the annexation project, and that we agree with the content of the report itself. We have no objections to any of the findings that were stated within the document. Just wanted to point out this has been an ongoing project that we've been working on for quite some time. This project is part of a long-term vision that the city has had for managing the development of our sphere of influence. And I appreciate the opportunity for the consideration of this annexation application. Included in this conversation is Matt Burris, Deputy City Manager, who would like to provide some comments as well. So I would like to go ahead and turn it over to him if he's available right now.
Mr. Burrows?
Good morning. Thank you. I am available. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak here. As Mike said, we're very, very excited as this annexation is a very important step towards the city realizing its vision for our foothills. More than 40 years ago, the Citizens Action Committee came together to develop a vision for our city and prepare the first general plan. That first plan, adopted in 1981, established a land use plan for our hillsides that would respect both the beauty and the hazards of the city's foothills, with widespread conservation, low density, rural hillside development. Since then, each general plan update and a 1992 Etiwanda North specific plan carried this idea forward until it was restated and reaffirmed with our city council's unanimous adoption of the Etiwanda Heights Neighborhood and Conservation Plan. This new plan only came to fruition after the most extensive public engagement process of my career. We had multiple meetings, workshops, focus groups, and surveys, and ultimately more than 200,000 contacts with community members. I'd like to state that this effort also included dozens of meetings, conversations, and working sessions with various residents and property owners from our sphere of influence. And while you now have several comment letters claiming no consultation, I can tell you I personally met with stakeholders dozens of times, and their input was instrumental in helping to form this plan. For example, Alex Cunningham helped us to understand the beauty of the front country and how suburban infrastructure would be expensive and out of character with their vision for their home. Now the plan includes rural specific infrastructure. Jody Enright helped us to understand the importance of animal keeping in a rural area and that our suburban standards would be prohibitive to their way of life. So the plan now mirrors the county's animal keeping standards. Ty Larson helped us to understand that our initial proposal for rural densities could be better calibrated and still meet the vision. And the plan's densities now carry forward the general plan's densities, again, that have been in place for decades. Don Collada helped us to understand the need for certainty and barriers to participation in the transfer of the development rights program. The plan now has both clear development standards as well as streamlined process and density transfer multipliers. We've worked hard to find that sweet spot of compromise where we have a plan that can work for everyone and still implement the vision. We understand that several stakeholders have an expectation of development potential under the county's jurisdiction, although it is currently under jurisdiction of the Rancho Fire District as well. Property rights are an intrinsic American value and a value which we take very seriously. Thus, the plan is careful not to eliminate development potential on any privately held property. In fact, the plan presumes every privately held parcel has some development potential. And while zoning is no guarantee of density, the plan tries to do right by stakeholders by carrying forward the land use plan set by our first general plan in 1981. While this plan may seem like a threat, reality is the front country is crisscrossed with numerous natural hazards and constraints that dissuade development. Why else wouldn't we have seen incremental development during what is arguably the hottest housing market of the last 20 years? Nonetheless, the plan provides a new option for property owners to capture the value of their investment through the provision of a new TDR program. Thank you very much for your time and consideration in helping us to achieve this long-held vision for our foothills.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Burris. Bo Camaro?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you. I submitted a lengthy letter and then I spoke to Samuel and he said that they could only read the first 250 words. So I chose not to have that read into the record and instead make comments via the meeting. If that's okay, I'll proceed.
You have 3 minutes.
Okay. My name is Patrick Kamerly and I represent Inland Real Estate Group, owner of a 4.35 acre parcel of land subject to the proposed annexation. Inland is opposed to LAFCO 3241. The reason is the plan is patently unfair and inequitable to the private owners of hillside property, in spite of what Matt Burris says right now. Yes, they had meetings. They were opposed at every turn by the hillside owners, and it's just glossed over. And there's just a steamrolling of those owners' rights. The majority of the hillside owners are against the annexation. You wouldn't know that from reading the LAFCO or the city publications. Under the plan, the city of Rancho Cucamonga is taking and transferring the development rights from the hillside owners. I've got a land use designation from the county when I purchased 1 dwelling unit per acre. Now I'm at 1 unit per 10 acres. My property was worth over $1 million. Now it's going to be valueless. This is a significant deal, and they gloss over it like, oh, it's no big deal. There's going to be horse trails. It's going to be great. Yeah, it's not great for the people that own the property in the hillside. The property as mitigation property or some sort of density transfer is a joke. Mitigation property goes for $4,000 to $8,000 an acre, and many of the owners up there have millions of dollars invested in their properties with the plan of developing the property. I've got a ton of money invested myself. The neighborhood area plan contains very detailed information with unit types, commercial specifications, road circulation, etc. Hillside owners got none of that. There's nothing planned. Nothing's going to get developed up there because there are no designations, there are no standards. Nothing's going to happen. Even if I went in to try and develop, the city's not going to allow anything up there for the foreseeable future. The property is valueless. The city of Rancho Cucamonga said in open public hearings that they will apply county standards similar to county improvement level 1. I seriously doubt that's going to happen. It's suspiciously 180 degrees different than the statements contained in the LAFCO write-up and other city written statements. Say applying stronger hillside design standards to undeveloped land and providing no more than 100 homes in the rural conservation area. They further say this will be subject to the city's development review process and all applicable development standards. I seriously doubt it's going to be county development standards for improvement level 1. The approval of this annexation was never in doubt. It was predetermined when this whole thing started, 2017. It was planned and coordinated in every turn by the city and the county way back when, prior to any public hearings. The end result is a very densely populated, developed, extraordinarily profitable neighborhood area down below on the 790 acres. The city and county stand to make hundreds of millions of dollars. Made on the backs. If you could just extend me the 30 more seconds, please. Extended on the backs of the hillside owners. It's absolutely unfair and inequitable. Now the hillside owners come to understand in this publication by LAFCO that their property, the entire hillside area, has been valued at $24 million and change, while magically the exempt public property is valued at $35 million. What it does is it creates a situation where if every hillside owner voted against it, we still get outvoted because the public exempt land trumps us by $11 million. It's an absolute absurd valuation that has no basis in fact whatsoever. For the foregoing reasons, I strongly urge LAFCO to vote no and deny LAFCO 3241. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, whoever is on the phone that ends in 2146.
Yes. Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, my name is Anthony Marisick. I own 4 parcels up in that area, and I'd like to respond to what Matt Burris said. Number one, he's just come to the city recently. That's not true. In 1994, the city's hillside plan for that particular area had on their plan had as many as 750 homes. That's number one. Number two is, yes, all of those people he did speak to, they requested an audience with him, and they are vehemently, those same people are against being annexed. The other thing I'd like to point out is the city asked and kept saying, this is, oh, we want to control the density up there. We want to control the runaway development. Let's call this what it is. The only thing that's getting developed in this project is a 1,200 acre piece that the county wanted to sell to the colonies. The only thing that's getting developed is the 790 acres out of the 1,200 in this thing. This is strictly a annexation for one particular project. And we're vehemently opposed to it, especially on my 4 properties, because I stand to lose about $2 million. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other public comments? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for further discussion and action.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Go ahead.
I wondered if we could ask Mr. Burris from the city to speak to the comments that Mr. Camarelli made about this, what the city has told people being different than what's in the report that we're reading. If we could get some clarification on that.
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Burris. Go ahead with your comments.
Sure. Thank you very much. I believe that Mr. Camerly is referring to the development standards with regard to animal keeping. If I recall correctly from last fall, we learned from the Enrights and the Cunninghams that cities' suburban oriented standards for animal keeping did not align with the counties. And we specifically made changes to the plan prior to its adoption in order to mirror the county's animal keeping standards so that we could better reflect the intent for rural living with our standards and mirror the approach that the county had been taking and the residents had been, and the regulatory framework the residents had been living under for quite some time.
Okay, other comments, questions of commissioners? Seeing none, Ms. Rutherford, would you want to make a motion?
I would be happy to. I will move the staff recommendation listed on the agenda, declaring a, sorry, juggling agenda here. I'll ask the attorney if I need to spell it out any more than that, or if I just say we can move staff recommendation.
It's fine for you. It's fine for you just to say you move staff recommendation as listed in the agenda and on the screen.
That would be my motion, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
I'll second.
We have a second from Mr. Rutherford. I mean, Mr. excuse me, Lovingood. Ms. Jones, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Bagley,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Aye.
Commissioner Cortalo. Okay, Commissioner Lovingood,
Yes.
Commissioner McAllen,
Yes.
Commissioner Rutherford,
Aye.
Commissioner Warren,
Aye.
Commissioner Farrell.
Yes.
Thank you.
The item passes. Now we'll go on to item 11, public hearing to adoption of the impartial analysis of LAFCO 3233A reorganization to include dissolution of County Service Area 64 and formation of the Spring Valley Lake. Now I'll open that public hearing. Staff presentation, please.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. The commission considered and approved the formation of the Spring Valley Lake CSD and dissolution of CSA 64 at its February 2020 meeting. And the protest process was completed in May with insufficient protests to terminate the proposal. Therefore, the proposal now goes to the voters for confirmation at the November election. The law requires the executive officer to prepare the impartial analysis of the ballot measure and for the commission to review and modify if needed and approve. Therefore, attached in the staff report is the draft impartial analysis for the commission's review. Next slide, Jeff. LAFCO staff recommends that the commission make changes to the impartial analysis if necessary and approve said impartial analysis for LAFCO 3233A and forward to the register of voters for inclusion on the voter information guide for the November election. I'll be happy to answer any questions from the commission.
Thank you, Sam. Ms. Jones, have we received any public comment on this item?
No, Mr. Chair, no public comment for this item.
Is there anyone in the public who wishes to comment on this item? Or please raise your hand, or by pushing the button, or if you're on phone, by pushing *9. I see none, therefore I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for discussion and action.
Mr. Chair, it would be my pleasure to move staff's recommendation on this item.
And Mr. Chair, it'll be my pleasure to, one, thank staff for their work, and second, the item.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to ask Ms. Jones to call the roll.
Commissioner Bagley,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Aye.
Commissioner Lovinggood,
Yes.
Commissioner McAllen,
Yes.
Commissioner Rutherford,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren,
Yes.
Commissioner Farrell.
Yes.
Thank you.
That item passes. Now move on to our discussion items. First, we have the Sustainable Agricultural Lands Conservation Program Planning Grant application. Staff?
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. At the May hearing, the commission approved the submission of the SALT pre-proposal application. Staff submitted the pre-proposal to the DOC staff, the Department of Conservation staff, who provided comments back, which LAFCO staff and IRCD staff have incorporated into the grant application. There were minor comments that were provided. At the May hearing, the commission expressed legitimate concerns regarding LAFCO's role, whether the planning grant impedes development, as well as risk involved related to the planning grant itself. Jeff, next slide. Is this LAFCO's role? As we pointed out previously, the commission's purpose includes, among other things, the preservation of open space and prime agricultural lands. Staff also provided you with examples the last time where the commission considered annexations that included the conversion of agricultural lands, which required mitigation for the loss of said agricultural lands. CEQA is not going away, and therefore the required mitigation of the loss of farmland and agricultural land will have to be addressed no matter what. And given this two scenarios, one issue that this commission raised previously is the lack of an established agriculture conservation program in the region, which is why this was discussed at length during our strategic planning workshop. The idea of keeping the required mitigation locally to protect some of the very few remaining prime farmlands in the region was something that the commission supported. And in order to do that, part of what this planning grant will do is to assess what's out there in terms of available agricultural lands and farmlands, evaluation options for the developers. If not local, what are the costs? The costs of buying agricultural lands or placing easements on these agricultural lands, and evaluating the long-term costs for management. Next slide, Jeff. Will these impede development? I would say on the contrary, this will in a way support development. This is a funding from the cap and trade revenue, which looks at sustainable communities and housing. This planning grant intends to strike the right balance between growth and development needs, and where to conserve local agricultural lands. Next slide, please. What are LAFCO's risks? Again, this is a planning grant. LAFCO's role here is to be a facilitator. for the conversation regarding growth and where to conserve agricultural lands. We will use this forum to answer the question on how to honor the need for housing, and at the same time, where we are supposed to conserve agricultural lands. Next slide, please. Should the DOC award the grant, the Department of Conservation, the grant application outlines what the deliverables are proposed, and this is identified on the slide. Next slide, please. LAFCO staff is seeking the Commission's support in submitting the soft planning grant application. Again, I would emphasize LAFCO and IRCD, who's our partner with this, will simply be the facilitator in trying to have that conversation with stakeholders in the Valley region, which we have support from. The state, in essence, is providing the funding to understand our community, to understand the community better as it relates to conservation of agricultural land. And in this COVID era, this is additional resources that would be flowing into our community that would not be there otherwise. I would, again, also emphasize this is not just for LAFCO. We have our goals of having our policies in place and making sure other jurisdictions have it as well. But really, this is for the community, collectively coming up with a shared plan that promotes smart growth and identifying where development will occur and where conservation of agricultural lands are to take place. So with that, staff is recommending the Commission take the actions on page 1 of the staff report, which are also on the screen. And that's my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions from the Commission.
Yes, Sam, I have a question. What is LAFCO's involvement going to be? I noticed that in the budget summary for the application, it says there's $68,825 for LAFCO. What are we going to be doing for that money?
Yeah, a lot of what we're going to be doing is like I said, we will be facilitating some of the stakeholder meetings, and in particular, we're going to be doing a lot of the mapping for the GIS mapping. We've started, as you may recall, we've already started some of the mapping for the agricultural lands as we did the service review. But one of the things that we have not really verified the mapping of those areas. Like we have the maps for all the prime agricultural lands. However, those the boundaries that we have are from years back that, according to the requirements of the government code, in order to reduce a prime agricultural lands, the jurisdiction has to take an action to remove that from, or take that portion out of the prime agricultural lands. And we have not really verified those things. So there's a lot of things that we want to do. Part of what we have to evaluate as part of this process is what are the crops? Where are the prime farmlands? There's different levels of agricultural lands. There are lands that are the high quality agricultural lands versus the ones that are not as high quality that could be developed. These are the ones that we want to make sure we understand a lot of the mapping of where those things are.
Well, at our last meeting, I got the impression that LAFCO was just going to be the conduit by which the funds were going to be provided to the other organization, and I wasn't aware that we were going to be essentially doing half of the work.
We'll be doing some work. It's not, we will also have consultants. Our projection was based on our involvement with staff time, and we also have a match that we would use. And again, for us, this would be additional revenues that we would otherwise not have, and that we would make use of that.
Thank you. Anybody else have questions or comments?
This is Steve.
Steve, go ahead.
Thank you. Sam, I'm very much in favor of this. I had a question about, is this strictly focused on prime agricultural land? I know some of the supporters are urban farming and urban agriculture. Would that be part of this project? Because that's part of what I believe that we are chartered to support. Can you make that clear? In particular, Huerta del Valle.
Yeah. It will be a whole raft of items, Steve, which includes the urban farming. But for us, as we start looking at evaluating policies, ours will be focused on the prime farmlands. Same as when we evaluate the policies of other stakeholders, other jurisdictions that have policies in places, it will be more focused on the prime farmland, prime ag lands. But we will, correct.
Just to follow up, is this something that we should have been doing? Let's say, are we behind on this? Is this a part of our commission's charter, LAFCO charter anyway to accomplish? And this is just a good way of funding that effort?
Well, yeah, yes, and yes, yes. This is something that we're, as I started off, this is something that LAFCO is one of its tenets is to preserve agricultural lands. We have to be innovative in what we're doing, and I think this is one way of getting to where we want to be. When we had our strategic planning process, we said we wanted policies in place, and in order to do that, we really don't have land use authority. So what we want to do is have those policies in place with the jurisdictions behind it as well, because they're the ones that are going to be requiring that the mitigations, and all we're going to do is, hey, this is what our policy says, and this is what pretty much the collective effort of the stakeholders have agreed upon. And the ultimate goal is having this shared plan for the Valley region.
Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr. Bagley.
So Sam, I hope in the review that we're also asking serious questions about the sustainability of agricultural lands in the economic overall scope of the county. 100 years ago, the county was a agricultural county. It was one of its primary sources of income. But when you look at the development that's happened in areas like Rancho Cucamonga or Redlands, it's a different world in 2020. We don't grow oranges and grapes anymore. And we wouldn't have the county and the economic viability of the county that we have today if we didn't recognize those changes. I support, it's an honorable goal to try and maintain agricultural lands, and I think that's important, but I also think there needs to be a larger picture and discussion about that, and I hope that will be part of this study.
And I agree, Commissioner Bagley. And that's exactly what we want to do. This is again the planning process, and what we need to understand in order to have the ability to acquire lands, if we have to get that part and have it locally, we need to assess what's out there, and we need to understand, is it even viable to acquire the lands here? What are the options? I mean, everything's going to the Central Valley, but is there a reason why it's going to the Central Valley? Can we compete? Those are the questions we need to answer. And I think hopefully this planning grant will be able to do that.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, what's the commission's pleasure?
Larry, I'd like to move that we move forward with staff's recommendations.
We have a motion by Mayor Warren.
I'll second it, Steve.
And a second by Mr. Farrell. Ms. Jones, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Bagley,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Aye.
Commissioner Lovingood,
Yes.
Commissioner McAllen,
Yes.
Commissioner Rutherford,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren,
Yes.
and Commissioner Farrell.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
That item passes unanimously. On to item 13, which is the unaudited year-end financial report for fiscal year 1920 to include transfer from reserves to services and supplies. Staff?
Thank you. We're almost there. I will make this quick. This is included under discussion since there is a request for transfer of funds. When we were here on the third quarter, we notified the commission that our projected deficit was about $90,000. And due to the pandemic, we thought we were doomed. But due to prudent spending, some charges that did not get realized, and because we received a big proposal right before the year end, the deficit has been reduced to a little over $30,000. Therefore, we are recommending a transfer of $30,727 from contingency, which currently has almost $50,000. Transfer that to the expenditure account 2445, other professional services. At this point, I'd like to note for the record that the staff report recommendation is written in error. It should not say transfer to general reserve. But as I mentioned, it should, and as noted on the screen, Jeff, if you could go to the next slide, please. The transfer is to account 2445, other professional services, to cover the deficit. I think we were still thinking that we would be dipping into our general reserves to cover the deficit. So the good thing is we are not going to have to tap into our general reserves. Additionally, when we were here for the third quarter report, we requested that the commission transfer funds from its net pension liability to pay down LAFCO's share of its SPSERA net pension liability schedule for the year. There's a transfer of budget authority of $42,500. And note that the payment has been made. And so by increasing the account 9990, this makes the budget flash. So if it's okay with the commission, I want to make this short. The request that the commission take the actions on page 1 of the staff report with the correction of the account transfer from contingency to other professional services, not general reserves. That's my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Any questions of staff? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move the staff's recommendation.
I second it.
Second by Warren. Ms. Jones, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Bagley,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Aye.
Commissioner Lovingood,
Yes.
Commissioner McAllen,
Yes.
Commissioner Rutherford,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren,
Yes.
and Commissioner Farrell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sam. Thank you for, and staff, thank you for all of the good work in the financial area. You're doing great and you're keeping us afloat, and we appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
On to-
So,
Go ahead.
Yeah, so for the alleged oral report, I have nothing to report at this time. The California Assembly was supposed to return this week, but due to, I think, 5 lawmakers and staffers getting positive of the coronavirus, their return has been postponed indefinitely. But as I identified before, all the bills that LAFCO and CalLAFCO were tracking anyway were on hold since both houses were focused on all the COVID-related bills. So at this time, other than the fact that the legislature is still on summer recess, I have nothing else to report.
Well, excuse me. Normally, it's a good thing when Sacramento doesn't meet. However, in this case, the governor has all the authority, and that is not good either. So those are my comments. So you have an executive officer's report?
I do. I'll try to be quick. I have 4 items. First, I want to inform the commission that we will not be having an August hearing. I will have staff send out a reminder about not having the August hearing sometime in the next couple of weeks. Secondly, I would also like to inform the commission that the LAFCO board has canceled the LAFCO annual conference, an in-person conference that is. Now they want to explore options of a hybrid, or not a hybrid, but a virtual one. So the executive director for LAFCO is looking for feedback on potentially having some sort of a virtual replacement. I'll be sending you an email regarding your feedback that they need and the options being discussed regarding the virtual conference. So I'll try to get that out before the end of the week. By the way, I don't remember if I mentioned this. Pamela Miller, the executive director to LAFCO early this year, made an announcement of her plan to retire supposedly after the annual conference. The board had started to do a search for a new executive director. However, due to the pandemic, she has opted to stay. Due to the uncertain times, she felt it was not a good time for a leadership transition. And because she's committed to LAFCO, she felt staying as executive director was the best interest of LAFCO. So I just wanted to let you know that if I didn't say that she was leaving, well, she's back. Third, I want to inform the commission that Jeffrey Lum, our analyst, will be leaving San Bernardino LAFCO sometime at the end of August. He has accepted a job up north in Solano LAFCO. I want to personally thank him for all the work he has done here, all the GIS mapping and creating the LAFCO mapping page. He has done great things for our LAFCO, and he will be sorely missed. So I wish him all the best in his future endeavor. And finally, I had shared with you the other day the news about Bill Chayat passing. Bill was the former executive director for LAFCO and recently was the dean for the CSAC Institute for Excellence in County Government. I would like to just ask the commission to adjourn our meeting today in his memory. So with that ends my EO report.
We will certainly do that. And Jeff, you're moving north. We're going to miss you.
Yeah. Am I allowed to say a few words here?
Sure.
Chair, members of the commission, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to work for San Bernardino County LAFCO for 5 years. My experience here is one for which I'm extremely grateful about. It's been a challenge for the best kind, and I consider an honor to be part of the LAFCO family. And
well, we're
you still hearing me? Are you still hearing me?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, and I would like to thank you for the opportunity to learn from some of the best executive officer in the LAFCO world. This has been a difficult decision for me, both personally and professionally. And your generous contribution to my LAFCO knowledge has been nothing short but vital. Without the support and guidance that you show me, I wouldn't feel ready to embark upon the next step in my career. Lastly, I want to express my deepest appreciation for all that you have done for me. And I wish San Bernardino LAFCO continued success in the future. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Lum. We appreciate you very much, and we wish you all the best in your future endeavors. And don't forget us. Come back and see us.
I'll definitely keep you guys in mind.
Very good. Any commissioner comments?
Well, in the silence, this is Steve. I just also wanted to express my appreciation, Jeff, for the work that you've done, the tech knowledge, and some of the GIS expertise. It's been a real pleasure working with you and chatting with you. and I will certainly miss you. And sorry I won't see you in person again. Thank you.
Commissioner Chairman, I just wanted to echo everyone's feelings about Jeffrey. Jeffrey, thank you for all your assistance. You've been wonderful.
Thank you, Commissioner Warren.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Lovingood.
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, our office has received outreach from a board member of one of our cemetery districts, sharing concerns on their current status and potential of what the future holds. I would like to request LAFCO staff to conduct a service review of all cemetery districts so that we as commissioners have a basis of information that would help a better understanding the status of all these districts in the event there are similar challenges being experienced in districts.
Sam?
Yes, certainly, and we would definitely start the work for doing that. We would just adjust. We were working on our solid waste service review. We will just put that on back burner, and we will go ahead and move forward with doing a service review for all the cemetery districts per your direction. Thank you.
I think that's a good idea.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question on that point?
Sure. Dr. Cox, go ahead.
Would that review include dependent as well as independent cemetery districts? Because I know San Bernardino County has some cemetery districts. Would that be considered a dependent cemetery district, or would that also be included in the independent evaluations?
So we've changed our we now look at based on service. So we will actually do a service review on the service itself, which will include not only the independent service providers, but also the dependent service providers.
Okay, excellent.
And yes,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Other comments from commissioners?
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr. Bagley.
Congratulations, Jeff. I really think that's a wonderful opportunity. You've been an asset to our LAFCO, and it's always great when somebody has a chance to go somewhere else and spread their wings. So congratulations.
Thank you, Mr.
On the October conference, I prefer to have in-person meetings rather than these virtual meetings. I'm just going to give you some input real quick on that, Sam. If there's a chance to reschedule it at some point, I'd like to do that. And it's really sad to hear about Bill Chayat's passing. That was kind of shocking news. And I'm very much in favor of the review of the cemetery districts. We might want to look at the recreation districts too in the context of the COVID-19 crisis that's happening.
We'll take a look at that and report back to the commission.
Other comments? I agree with Mr. Bagley on his comments and ask staff to look into that also. Well, with that, Ms. Jones, do we have any public comments?
No, Mr. Chair, no public comment.
Is there anyone in the public who wishes to comment? Please raise your hand or either press *9 if you're on the phone. Seeing none, then.
Mr. Chairman, one more comment.
Sure.
I think that we're remiss if we haven't created a resolution thanking Louisa Amis for her service.
We have.
And
we're going to present it. We're going to present it when we have a in-person meeting.
All right, good. I just want to make sure that we were doing that. So I'm glad to hear that will happen. So hopefully sometime in the future, we can all be back together and we can actually thank people in person for what they do.
I agree. I agree.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, I just want to concur with Mr. Bagley's comments, one, and in person, and also I echo the same sentiments about a conference in person. Thank you.
And I agree with that too. In person is so much better than these Zoom meetings. Any other comments before I adjourn the meeting? Seeing none, we'll stand adjourned until our September meeting, I guess. Thank you all for participating. It's been a long day. Have a great weekend and everybody stay safe.
Thank you all.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Jeff and Sam, you still there?
Oh, hi, Mr. Farrell.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been getting texts from Jim Curatolo, who has apparently been on and being told he's on a panelist, but hasn't been able to participate. I don't know. I know he wanted to be on the agenda as attending. I don't think that's possible at this point, but if you can let Sam know, I see he signed off, Jeff, that maybe work with him to find out what's going on, because he's had trouble both times he's tried to participate. And
Right, because for the past few times, I believe he was calling in, so we'll make sure to for the next meeting. Well, if we're going to use Zoom or not, we should resolve that before we
all right,
start
that's
the
it.
next one. But
And
thank you.
really,
though.
really good luck up north then.
Yeah, I know it's a long move.
That's a big move. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, good luck with it.
Thank you very much.
All right. I'll see you at a Cal LAFCO perhaps.
Yeah, hopefully I'll see you in Cal LAFCO conference.
All right.
All
Have a
right.
good one. I
Bye.
gotta go.